Level 1. El Mandadero. You're 13. Nobody hands you an application. Nobody tells you that you've joined anything. A man standing outside a corner store on the hillside looks at you, asks your name, then asks if you know how to get across the neighborhood fast. Of course you do. You know every staircase between the brick houses, every shortcut between the unfinished walls, every street where buses can barely make the turn. You grew up here. Knowing how to move through this place is one of the few things you own. He gives you an envelope. Take it to a man 3 blocks away. Come straight back. That is the entire job. When you return, he puts more money in your hand than you expected. The next day, there is another envelope, then another. Sometimes you carry a message, sometimes a small package. Sometimes you are told to wait outside a building until somebody comes down and takes it from you. You learn quickly that the less you know, the easier the work feels. At home, your mother thinks you found errands with a local business. You do not correct her. The first week you get paid, you bring home groceries without being asked. Rice, cooking oil, eggs. Enough meat for Sunday. Your mother looks at the bags, then at you. For half a second, you think she is going to ask where the money came from. She doesn't. That silence becomes the first agreement you make with the cartel, even though neither of you knows it yet. Because when you are 13 and your family needs money, morality can feel like something rich people have time to discuss. You do not think you are entering a criminal organization. You think you found work. Level 2. El Campanero. You're 15. You do not carry packages anymore. Now they trust you to watch. That sounds like a promotion because they pay you more. You stand outside places where important things happen behind closed doors. You notice unfamiliar cars. You recognize faces. You learn which people belong on a block and which people do not. The older men barely look at you. That is useful. A teenager leaning against a wall is scenery. A teenager who remembers everything is intelligence. You begin to understand that the cartel does not run only on money and violence. It runs on information. Who arrived? Who left? Who spoke to whom? Who was late? Who suddenly has more money than he should? One afternoon, a man you know disappears. Not a friend. Nobody here uses that word easily. But you have seen him every week for almost a year. He jokes with the younger guys, buys sodas, always wears the same cheap watch. Then one Monday, he is simply gone. You ask someone where he went. The look you receive is enough to make sure you never ask again. A few days later, you hear pieces of the story. Someone below him talked too much. Someone outside the organization learned something they were not supposed to know. The problem traveled upward until it reached him. You remember that, not the details. The rule. In this world, another person's mistake can become your punishment. From that moment on, silence is no longer something you practice because you are afraid. Silence becomes something you believe keeps you alive. Level 3. El Soldado. You're 17. People stop calling you kid. That feels important. It should not. Your work changes. You are sent along when businesses need to be reminded who controls the neighborhood. You stand behind older men during conversations where nobody raises their voice because nobody needs to. You begin seeing the other side of the money. At 13, the cartel meant groceries on your mother's table. At 17, you understand where some of that money comes from. A shop owner pays because he is afraid not to. A driver agrees because saying no has consequences. A family closes its store early because 3 men stood outside too long. You tell yourself you are only there. You are not the person deciding anything. That excuse lasts until the night something goes wrong. There is an argument inside a small back room. A man refuses to cooperate. Someone moves too fast. There is shouting, a crash, then sudden violence. When you step outside, your hands are shaking so badly you cannot light a cigarette. You stare at them. 5 minutes pass. then 10. Eventually, the shaking stops. That bothers you more than the shaking itself, because the next time something happens, it stops faster, and the time after that, faster still. You are becoming useful. Your pay increases. You move your mother into a better apartment. Hot water, a real stove, a bedroom window that closes properly when it rains. She hugs you the first night. You hold her and realize something you will spend years trying not to think about. The same system making her life better is making you into someone she would be afraid to recognize. Level 4. El Sicario. You're 20. There is no ceremony, no speech, no badge. A senior man calls you into a restaurant, talks for less than 10 minutes, and tells you that you will be handling more serious work now. Everybody at the table understands what that means. You understand too. The money changes immediately. So does the way people look at you. At 15, older men barely noticed you. At 20, conversations stop when you enter a room. For the first time in your life, fear works in your favor. At first, you build rules inside your own head. There are things you will not do, people you will not become, lines you will never cross. The problem with private rules is that nobody else can see when you move them. One exception becomes two. Two becomes four. Eventually, you stop counting. You buy your mother new furniture. You pay a relative's medical bill. You wear clothes that would have looked impossible to the 13-year-old version of you. People from the neighborhood say you made it. You smile when they say that. You do not tell them what making it feels like at 3 in the morning when the apartment is quiet and you cannot remember the last time you dreamed. If you've made it this far, comment which level surprised you the most and subscribe because the next levels are where the structure changes completely. Level 5, Jefe de Sicarios. You're 25. You do not do the work yourself anymore. You decide who will. That is the first promotion that actually changes you. A small group now reports to you. Young men from neighborhoods like yours. Some are 18. Some are younger. They look at you the way you once looked at the older men who seemed to know everything. You know something they do not. Those older men never knew everything. Neither do you. They were simply responsible for what happened next. Now you are. Assignments come down. You distribute responsibility. When someone fails, the question comes back to you. When someone causes a problem, you are expected to solve it. One afternoon, a kid in your group makes a mistake. Nothing dramatic at first. He talks when he should have stayed quiet. He attracts attention. He gives conflicting explanations. You sit across from him and see something familiar. He is scared. He is trying not to show it. For 1 second, you see yourself at 15. Then the second passes. You make the decision expected of someone in your position. That evening, you realize there are now people beneath you who fear your judgment more than they fear the police. You used to think power meant nobody could tell you what to do. You are beginning to understand that power mostly means more people can blame you when something goes wrong. Level 6, Jefe de Plaza. You're 29. Now they give you territory. Several neighborhoods, dozens of people, multiple crews reporting upward through men who report to you. Money moves through the structure. Disputes reach your desk. Problems that once seemed enormous now arrive as short conversations. A local disagreement, a missing payment, a person nobody trusts anymore, a crew that cannot work together. You rarely raise your voice. You learned years ago that the people with the least authority usually make the most noise. For the first time, something inside the organization feels like yours. Your territory, your people, your responsibility. That feeling is addictive. It is also a lie. Nothing belongs to you. The cartel lets you control things for as long as your control remains useful. You discover this when one of your best men creates a problem serious enough to reach the level above you. Your superior does not ask what happened. He asks why you allowed it to happen. That question stays with you. At the bottom, you are punished for your mistakes. Near the top, you are punished for mistakes you failed to prevent. You go home that night and understand that every promotion has made you less free, not more. Then your phone rings. You answer anyway. Level 7, Coordinador de Producción y Logística. You're 33. You leave the street behind. Not completely. Nobody ever completely leaves it behind. But now you are shown parts of the organization you did not know existed when you were younger. Production, transportation, warehouses, personnel, money, intermediaries, people separated by hundreds of miles whose decisions affect one another without ever meeting. For years, you thought the armed men were the cartel. Now you understand they were only the visible edge. The real organization is coordination. One delay creates another delay. One unreliable supplier creates problems somewhere else. One arrest changes decisions made in 3 different places. Your job is no longer to intimidate anybody. Your job is to make sure problems do not spread. This is the strange part. The higher you rise inside a criminal organization, the more ordinary parts of your day begin to look. Meetings, numbers, schedules, arguments over responsibility, men explaining why something was not their fault. You could almost mistake it for a legitimate company if you ignored what the company actually produces and what happens to people who fail. A major problem hits one part of the operation. Nobody threatens you. Nobody needs to. A senior man sits across from you and asks one question: how long until it is fixed? You give him an answer. Then you make sure it happens. When the problem is resolved, nobody congratulates you. That is another lesson. At this level, success is invisible. Only failure gets remembered. Level 8, Coordinador Financiero. You're 37. You no longer need to know every person. You need to know where the money is supposed to be. That gives you more power than carrying a weapon ever did. You begin seeing the organization as numbers. Income, losses, payments, properties, businesses, debts. People who once looked dangerous to you now sit across the table explaining discrepancies. A younger version of you would have found that funny. You do not. 1 month, a significant amount cannot be properly accounted for. The problem belongs to a man beneath you. But when your superior puts the numbers on the table, he does not ask for that man. He asks for you. Why didn't you see it? There it is again. The question that follows you upward. Not what did you do? What did you fail to know? You correct the problem. The subordinate disappears from your organization. Another person takes his place. By dinner, the numbers balance again. You sit at home, eating with your family, and suddenly realize you have become capable of moving from someone's destruction to an ordinary meal without carrying the first emotion into the second. At 17, your hands shook. At 37, you almost missed the shaking. It proved something inside you was still arguing. Level 9, Coordinador General, Segundo de Operaciones. You're 40. You are invited into a room you did not know existed. That matters. Every organization has rooms like this. Places where the decisions are made before everyone else is told what the decision was. Around the table are men responsible for territory, money, production, security, and political relationships. 10 years ago, any one of them could have ended your career with a sentence. Now they wait for you to speak. Your role is to connect them. When one side has a problem, you need to understand what it does to the others. You spend less time giving orders than listening to 5 people explain why someone else is responsible. Then the man above you disappears. The story changes depending on who tells it. Some say he was arrested. Some say enemies reached him first. Some say he knew what was coming and left before anybody could stop him. You never learn the truth. What matters is the chair. It is empty. For 3 days, everybody pretends this is temporary. On the 4th day, The boss asks you to keep things moving until a permanent decision is made. There is no announcement. You simply begin doing the work. A week passes, then another. People stop asking whether the former director is coming back. They start calling you first. That is how promotion works at the highest levels. Not with applause, with absence. Someone disappears. Everyone turns toward the person still standing. Level 10. Jefe de Operaciones. Director Operativo del Cartel. You're 43. You finally reach the position that would have sounded impossible when you were 13. You are not the owner. You are not the famous name newspapers print. You are not the man whose photograph people recognize. You are the man who makes sure the machine wakes up every morning. Territory reaches you. Production reaches you. Money reaches you. Security reaches you. Disputes between powerful men reach you. Problems nobody wants to put in front of the boss reach you first. The organization has become too large for any one person to see all of it. So your job is to see enough. Enough to know where pressure is building. Enough to know which relationship is breaking. Enough to know when a small failure is about to become a large one. People stand when you enter certain rooms now. You notice it the first few times. Then you stop noticing. You own an expensive home. Your mother never worries about groceries anymore. The kid who once ran through hillside streets carrying an envelope has achieved everything he thought money was supposed to solve, and yet your life is smaller than it was at 13. You cannot trust easily. You cannot disappear for a week. You cannot simply decide you are tired and quit. Too many people know your name. Too many people depend on your decisions. Too many people would be threatened by what you know. This is the part nobody explains when you are young. At the bottom, the cartel controls you because you need the money. At the middle, it controls you because you need the status. At the top, it controls you because you know too much to become ordinary again. One evening, you are alone in your office after everyone leaves. There are folders on the desk, numbers, names, problems waiting for morning. You think about the first envelope. You can still picture it. Small, light, almost nothing. At 13, your entire responsibility could fit in one hand. If you lost it, you imagined the world would end. 30 years later, thousands of decisions somehow pass through you, directly or indirectly, and you finally understand how wrong you were about power. You thought every level would remove somebody standing above you. First the man giving you errands, then the lookout coordinator, then the crew boss, then the plaza chief, then the regional managers. Every promotion removed one person between you and the top. You kept waiting for the moment when nobody could control you anymore. It never came. The control simply changed shape. When you were poor, hunger controlled you. When you were young, fear controlled you. When you became dangerous, ambition controlled you. Now responsibility does. The boss can replace almost anyone in the organization, but replacing you would shake everything beneath you. For years, that is exactly what you wanted. To become indispensable. Sitting alone in that room, you finally understand the price. Indispensable is just another word for trapped, when the thing that needs you is something you can never safely leave. Your mother used to ask when you were coming home. Eventually, she stopped asking. Your old neighborhood used to feel like the entire world. Now you can see half the city from your window, and there is almost nowhere in it you can walk without somebody recognizing what you became. You started at 13 because a man offered you money to carry something across a neighborhood. You told yourself you were helping your family. Then you told yourself you were surviving. Then you told yourself you were building a future. Then you stopped explaining it altogether. That may be the most dangerous level of all. The moment you no longer need a reason. You look down at your hands. They are steady. They have been steady for years. At 17, you thought losing the shaking meant you were becoming strong. At 43, you understand what it actually meant. You were adapting. One decision at a time. One promotion at a time. One line moves slightly farther than the last. 30 years ago, you thought the men at the top must feel free. Now you are close enough to the top to see the truth. The people at the bottom are trapped because they have nothing. The people at the top are trapped because they have too much to lose. You spent your entire life climbing from one kind of prison into another. And the cruelest part is that every new room was bigger than the last, so you kept mistaking the extra space for freedom. You are the director of operations now. The machine cannot easily run without you. And for the first time, you understand that this does not mean you own the machine. It means the machine finally owns all of you.